Xoli, a very good morning to you. So, I mean, just yesterday was filled with I don't knows, I don't remember, that never happened. Even the former president, you know, going as far back as to dispute the sort of testimony or evidence or what came out of somebody who's passed, somebody who's no longer here to you know, defend what happened at the time, the late Collins Chibane. So just give us an idea, a brief overview of just how the former president came across yesterday.
Well, very good morning to you, Yuveka, from a bitterly cold Park Town, at the venue of the state capture inquiry. And as you've correctly captured, the former president being asked in some detail about some of the testimonies, in particular Themba Maseko, the former CEO of GCIS, and the testimony as well of Fakey Mento. And the day really characterized, if you like, in terms of his answers by, I don't know, I can't recall that, I don't think that it would have happened. But Yuvi, I'm not alone. Let me bring into the picture Michael Apple, my colleague, who has been covering this together with me. Mike, so the two testimonies, how did the former president come across in these testimonies of two witnesses that have been revisited thus far?
Gumby, let's warm ourselves up by recounting some memories from yesterday. Memory being the critical word here. What could the president remember? In a nutshell, nothing. Themba Maseko says that the former minister in the presidency, the late Collins Chibane, phones him after he refuses to, in a sense, grease the wheels for the Guptas, that 600 million rand ad spend that Ajay Gupta wanted exclusively for the New Age newspaper and ANN7. When Themba Maseko, using an expletive, he says, there we know what that is, says he's not going to help them out. The president allegedly makes a phone call, this is Themba Maseko's version, to Collins Chibane, says redeploy him or terminate his contract, fire him. The president says he never received that phone call, he never gave that instruction. So that is on the version, it's on the record that Themba Maseko it's in conflict with his version of events.
Mike, also interesting how the former president seems to remember what he wants to remember, and in a way, maybe we're being unfair on him, but he seems to block out what he really doesn't want to remember. At some point, the commission says, takes him back to a statement that was issued by the presidency, his office at the time, about whether or not he could recall who Fakey Mento was.
Yeah.
And the statement said?
Well, he has no recollection of her at all. This, a chairperson of the Public Enterprises Portfolio Committee in the parliament where he was the president, sat a couple of people, a couple of chairs from him, absolutely no recollection.
This is someone he dealt with, by the way, when he was deputy president in that parliamentary caucus, but seemingly he couldn't remember. But conveniently, he does remember her when a picture of her is presented to him.
This is, to be honest, the only about turn that there has been from the former president on the stand. The only piece of evidence that is yet to come out where he has said, okay, I got this wrong. I needed a picture of Fakey Mento to jog my memory. Oh yes, no, I do know who she is, except the presidency denied flatly that he knew her then, and that was never corrected.
Mike, very quickly, the issue around the spirited fight by his legal team to try and caution him, or cushion him, I should say, from some of the direct line of questioning. Talk to me about the commission chairperson and how he's dealt with that matter.
So he brought the legal teams into chambers, I think it was just before lunchtime or it was just before the tea break. And there was continuous interjection by Mr. Mancha, by the entire legal team, and there was a ruling that we suspected needed to be made because they were arguing that he was being cross-examined on evidence in which he is not directly implicated. He feels there is no fraud, corruption or state capture. This is where Advocate Paul Pretorius, the evidence leader, says, but we can also, it's within the terms of reference, to look at undue influence, whether the president had a hand in any of this, as in Themba Maseko's firing or redeployment. Did he have a hand in that? So in trying to get to grips with what this entire inquiry is about, they're simply asking, this is Themba Maseko's version, what is your version? And when they ask him, then the legal team interjects saying he's not privy to these conversations, he doesn't know, why are you continuing with this line of questioning, you're looking to paint the former president in a particular light, and when he can't answer, then the chairperson must draw a particular inference about his inability to answer those questions, saying it's unfair. Other witnesses have been asked for statements, they've privately been met outside of the inquiry, and then they are led through their evidence. But of course, we know the former president never put up a statement.
Mike, just finally then, we can't ignore the political figures that keep coming here.
Although some certainly tried to ignore you yesterday.
Don't be fair, don't be unfair to Malusi Gigaba. He is the latest figure to come here, someone who's it's been rare to see him. He has become very scarce in the public eye. But he came here. I said to the Secretary General of the ANC, Ace Magashule, yesterday that perception in politics is sometimes reality. What are you doing here? And his response was, well, I'm here just like you, but I'm here in my personal capacity. What do we make of the politicians, particularly the ones who were ministers during Zuma's lifetime as president, making their appearance here?
Look, we have seen various political figures at all of his court cases throughout the last decade. Those that come here in their personal capacity, of course, the National Executive Committee of the ANC saying you're not allowed to come here as in your professional or organizational capacity.
Yes.
And so Des van Rooyen is here. He joins every day. Carl Niehaus is here. We've seen Kebi Mapatswe is here. Malusi Gigaba is the latest member of those who arguably were put into positions of a lot of power when Jacob Zuma was the president. They are coming here seemingly to pay their dues, and they are seen as having had a particular allegiance to the former president, and they are here in support of him.
Michael Apple, we're going to have to leave it there for the time being. Well, Yuveka, today the focus is going to be on Barbara Hogan, the testimony that she gave before the commission here. The former president was just about to be questioned on that when his legal team asked that perhaps the commission could adjourn for the day. If you speak, Yuveka, and I know we've taken a lot of your time, but just wrapping up, if you speak to some of those, of course, the politicians in the ANC, and you ask them what do they make of those that come here to stand in solidarity with the former president, they tell you that, look, it's quite clear that there is this regrouping of those who could be termed as the coalition of the wounded, if you like, and there does seem to be strong talk, although it won't come out now, that the NGC is the next big thing in the ANC to look to, is the next big conference of the ANC to look at, and that's where perhaps this regrouping we are going to see against the current leadership in the ANC. Okay,
well, that's certainly an issue I want to look at next. Thanks very much, Xoli Mgambi. He's at the State Capture Inquiry there with Michael Apple. They're keeping an eye